There's a difference between do it yourself and do it for a living. At the Home Depot, we get that. And we're here to help pros get the job done with the products and brands you trust. Technology to keep your job on track. Job site delivery to save you time. And bulk pricing on over 4,000 items every day to save you money. When you've got a job, we're on the job. The Home Depot. More saving, more doing.
Blog Talk Radio.
What's up out there, good people, and welcome back. We are back in the building with another season of Quick Slants, your favorite college football show. Look, it's been a long time, but like I just said, we are back. Episode number 63. I'm one of your hosts. I'm Devin McMillan, and I'm here with the star of the show. We got Fred Perdue in the building. Fred, what's going on, good brother?
Finally. I got to repeat that one more time. Finally.
No doubt.
Seems like it's been forever, man. Seems like it's been forever. I've been waiting a long time for that one.
It definitely seemed like it's been forever. And since we're here, we're definitely going to put in a plug for Cover 2 with McMillan and Perdue as well, our NFL show that will be back. It is preseason in college and NFL football, and we're about to give you the goods. The War Room Sports Podcast Network will be back up and running as soon as possible, but for now, we're going to let you know on all social media platforms where you can find these episodes up until that time. But Fred, good brother, it's a lot happening. Look, before we get into the rundown, I have to ask you about this Urban Meyer situation. What are your thoughts on that one, man? Are we about to lose a great one?
Wow. My personal thoughts on this one, I've seen this already. I've seen this story already, I guess, dating back to the days at UF when, you know, there was a certain Tim Tebow there keeping all things going and keep making a lot of wins happen and not a lot of losses happen. This date's long before now. You guys are just now seeing what many of us major college football heads have called the urban liar. That's what we've known him as. That's what I've known him as since my days back when I remember him recruiting the high schools that I walked the halls in. How he operated, seeing how he would tell players so many things and how he covered up things such as drug use on the University of Florida campus, whether it was Janoris Jenkins, whether it was harboring a murderer in Aaron Hernandez. There were so many things that went on at the University of Florida that I might get this guy in trouble. So I don't know how far the statute of limitations date back, so I'm just going to keep my mouth closed. I don't want to get in trouble. But nonetheless, yeah, I don't want to. I don't need anybody saying anything to me. But you know, looking at how all of this has gone on, I'm not surprised because yeah, on the field he is a master. He's a master tactician when it comes to getting the most out of his players. It's almost Bill Belichickian, Nick Saban-ish, but on the other side of things, it just his character off the field. You would call this, if he was a draft prospect, you would say he has questionable character, and he would have a lot of questions to answer, and that draft stock would be falling. And he got his first chance, and he got away with it this time. It won't happen. And well, if you just happen to either see, let's just say, and I'm not throwing any names. I'm not trying to throw any clout around, but sources close to the situation, he's out of there. It's done. It's done.
Yeah, we kind of talked about it on the War Room yesterday, and it's an interesting story. If you read up on it, you know that his assistant coach's wife actually told Urban Meyer's wife, and she said that she was going to report it to him. So I was wondering, I'm pretty sure she said something, but I was wondering how important this Ohio State job is to him. Like, were they going to come up with some kind of plan to make his wife, kind of take one for the team and maybe say she never told him and he didn't know? But at this point, it's looking like that the admission is coming out that he did know. But the last grasp at a straw was, I did know, and I did report it to the university. That's the last I've heard of everything. But, it's one of those things. This is the time that we live in. Like, when the story first hit, I'm like, wow, are they really going to end up firing this dude because he didn't say anything? But then, I spoke to a few people, and, people are saying, like, when you're a high-ranking employee in any state program, whether it's government or university, any kind of state, just place of business, it's your duty. And I don't know if it was written into his contract, but it's kind of his duty to say something about that. And for me, I'm like, a lot of these coaches and assistant coaches, it isn't always just a coaching relationship. These guys are friends most of the time. So I guess on one hand, you might be trying to protect your friend by not publicly putting out his heinous acts, but at the same time, you're risking your livelihood as well. And it looks like we might be about to lose a great one. See, but if this doesn't come with any kind of NCAA ban, if he just gets fired from this university, then it's not really going to be that big of a deal because Urban Meyer have a job, before he packs up his office. If that's the case, if it doesn't come with some kind of ban.
Yeah, and for me, when I look at his past history, well, there were some alleged heart problems. Then there was an ESPN job. That's what we saw the last time when Tim Tebow was on his way out of the door. I don't think you'll see much of that because ESPN doesn't want those kind of problems at this point. But for the thing I really have to caution any university, I would say, are you willing to take those kind of character flaws onto the next job? Is winning that important to you? Because not only did Zach Smith's wife go and say to Urban Meyer's wife, he went on that this kind of thing was going on. She mentioned it to multiple other coaches' wives. So there's a paper trail. There's text messages, and Urban Meyer messed up when he tried to brush Brett McMurphy off at Big Ten Media Days. When a reporter asks you a question and you either blow him off or you don't answer it completely and you're not completely transparent, said reporter may start digging. And anytime you start digging and there's smoke, there's usually fire. And a reporter as good as Brett McMurphy, who I have so much respect for. I follow his work all the time. I've kind of gotten to the point where I'm calling him he might be the Adam Schefter of college football here. I mean, he's dropping bombshells, and it's not just he was an ESPN guy, but now it's he's no longer with the company, but he's dropping this on his personal Facebook page now. So it's to that point now. This man is. He has the attention of everyone. So, and there's multiple paper trails here. So, Urban Meyer might be in trouble. And just a little bitty nugget. Not many people caught on to this, but the Ohio State job was the alternative destination. He was looking at the Notre Dame job years ago, and Brian Kelly just happened to turn things around, take those guys to a national championship, in which they got destroyed by Alabama, and he righted the ship a little bit. But before that, there were conversations about him being gone there, Brian Kelly that is, and because of blow-ups on the sidelines, he's calmed down so much since then, and he's continuing to give you 9-10 win seasons, so he's safe because the standard has dropped there at Notre Dame a little bit. silly Irish. Anyway, but nonetheless, anytime I can make a jab at those guys, of course, I'll make it. But for me, when I look at how Urban Meyer's path has been, it just seems many coaches, recruits in the college football community, they look at him as a snake. They look at him as a person that sells a dream. He gets results. You don't just accidentally win 3 national championships. He's a heck of a recruiter, which also Zach Smith was a heck of a recruiter. And when you have a heck of a recruiter, which is the lifeblood of college football, unlike the NFL where you just get draft picks and you hope they work out. In college football, if you have a dynamic recruiter who can just deliver year in and year out, you're a commodity, and coaches will go to bat for you, whether they're right or wrong.
All right, well, there you have it. On that, of course, this is a big situation that we're all going to sit back and watch. But this is our college football preview special. Like I told you guys when we signed on, this is episode 63 of Quick Slants. We are back for another season. We're going to jump right into it, and we're going to preview these Power 5 conferences. And we're going to start with the Big 12. Fred, let's talk about them. Coaching changes. What's going on in the Big 12?
Luckily, the Big 12 was the only conference to stay completely intact. Now, granted, that could change going into next season, whether there's wins or losses. You could point at Kansas, David Beatty. He may not be there. He's won 3 games in like 4 years. That school is they're a basketball school. It's the way it is. They're just never gonna win. If you have any more expectations than maybe 2 or 3 wins a year, I gotta say, I'm gonna be very disappointed. Matt Campbell at Iowa State, he might be up for this Ohio State job. If Urban Meyer is let go or he resigns, he could be a name you could see placed out there at some point. Iowa State just keeps finding ways to win games. They pick off a team or 2 every year, and they're a tough out every now and then. So he's a name to watch at some point who could potentially leave. And good old Mike Gundy, we all know he's a man. Well, he might not be 40 anymore. He might be a little older than that. That's been a while.
Yeah. It's been some years since the great blow up, but come on, man. He's still Mike Gundy. He's still a man.
Yeah.
He's gonna be 40 for the rest of his life.
Exactly. I can.
I'm a man. I'm 40.
Exactly. And see, the part I take out of that is, come after me. That's what he's been wanting. Oklahoma State he's probably gotten as far as he can take this team, 10, 11 wins, and he's been consistent year in and year out, putting big names into the NFL. But that LSU job, it just keeps staring him in the face. And we all know the Big 12 is a not so great conference. They're probably the worst of the 5. So he may be, if Ed Orgeron doesn't really turn things around there, even though he's a hometown guy for them, I really could see that could be a nice landing spot. And I mean, at Bill Snyder, seems like he's been at Kansas State since the 1920s. I mean, he's 79. I mean, can he coach much longer? I mean, more power to him. I mean, if he's living his best life, but 79's a bit old. He's I mean, he is the program at this point.
That's not old for coaching. That's old for any damn thing. All right, so throw me some names, some players to watch in the Big 12 conference this season.
Big 12 conference players to watch for me, easily Kyler Murray, big time quarterback prospect, transferred from Texas A&M a few years back. He was supposed to be the replacement for Johnny Manziel. Didn't work out there. He transferred. There's no more Baker Mayfield to hold him back. Baseball's going to wait a little bit longer, but he could put up some big numbers. Will Greer, quarterback at West Virginia, the former Florida Gator who had a lot of success there. He's going to be teaming up with David Sills, the fifth. Yes, the fifth. If for anyone that really follows recruiting, David Sills, he was the former 13-year-old quarterback prodigy who got offered a scholarship by Lane Kiffin at USC. He is a converted quarterback now, and he's playing wide receiver, and he's a darn good one. So please, in a conference where you're seeing all we see is throw, and keep throwing, and there's not a lot of defense played, that's going to be a big-time player to watch. Rodney Anderson at Oklahoma for running back, he had 1,000 yards last year and also 11 touchdowns on the ground. So and that was only in the final 8 games. So he's going to be a big name to watch.
For a minute, because when you talked about Kyler Murray, you brought up Johnny Manziel. I just had to let everybody know out there that Johnny Manziel is already up in Canada, stinking the field up. He had a game tonight, as a matter of fact, threw 4 interceptions in the first half of the game.
There was first interception in the first 2 passes, yeah.
Second play of the damn game. His 4th interception came with 2:22 left in the half. He played 3 series in the third quarter, all ending in punts before he got sent to the bench. So come on, Johnny. Come on now. You know what I'm saying? You've been touted too much, and you're getting another chance. You're doing a little too much. All right, now back to the Big 12 and its players to watch.
Justice Hill is actually a Heisman hopeful. I'm going to keep my eye on this year. Last season, he had 1,500 yards. He also had 15 touchdowns, and he had 31 catches for 190 yards. He skipped the NFL. He also doesn't have James Washington or Mason Rudolph to hold him back. So now granted, that could be a blessing and a curse because now you're a quarterback. You don't have a quarterback to take the pressure off, make that extra man jump out the box. But in a loaded Big 12 where there's no real defense played, that could be a good thing. So Justice Hill is going to be a guy I really want to watch coming into this season.
Okay, so going into the season, what are some of your predictions for this conference?
Iowa State's gonna really surprise some people. They could be every year. I keep trying to want them to be this champion. I don't think they'll win a Big 12 title or anything, but they'll pick off some teams. Maybe pick off a Baylor, pick off they always give Oklahoma problems early in the half. I'm not gonna go and make some crazy bets or anything, but they could easily sneak up on some teams. So I'm interested to see them, and I want to see West Virginia's defensive line. I want to see how they can, with Kenny Bigelow, former Cal transfer. I want to see how he does on that defensive line. A lot of guys that are just transferring all over the place. So, and I'm sorry, Kenny Bigelow was from USC. I want to see a lot of these big hogs up front because we know the Big 12. We know you guys don't play any defense. We know this. So any kind of credit I'm giving you, just take it.
All right, well, let's move on to the Big 10. Now, being from where I'm from, if there's a conference if there's a team that I claim, of course, it's Penn State. I wouldn't call myself diehard in the least, but, this is what it is, besides the school that I went to, and, that's not even worth talking about when we have these conversations.
Hey, Camden's little brother is pretty good. Hey, be nice. Yeah, be nice.
Like a game or two, and then that all went downhill. But any coaching moves? Well, we just talked about a really big one that might be coming down the pipe. But anything else boiling or bubbling in the Big 10 as far as coaches are concerned?
Nothing really major to report on here. We do see
not yet.
There was only one major one that really deserves anything, and that's Scott Frost coming over from UCF. and their alleged national championship team. I treat that national championship like I treat Reggie Bush's Heisman, and well, it didn't really. To many of us, it doesn't really exist. So hey, but he's going back home, kind of like he's having a LeBron moment. He's going home and where it all started, and he's gonna be taking that formula that Tom Osborne had in his day. He's going to be using that formula to rebuild this Nebraska Cornhuskers team. Don't know how many wins you're going to get out of this because you're in a loaded conference. You have not only do you have to deal with Wisconsin and Iowa in your own division and a pretty good Minnesota and Northwestern team, but also on the other side, you have Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan State all vying for one. That's a lot to deal with. And, well, by the way, Wisconsin's returning their whole offensive line, guys. So with a Heisman hopeful at running back. So good luck.
Speaking of loaded, there was an Amway coaches poll that shows that the Big Ten is now, in their opinion, I guess, is now the strongest conference in college football. Now, of course, the conference doesn't house the best team in college football, but just like you just said, the conference is loaded. So college coaches seem to think that this is now the best conference in college football. Do you have any objections to that?
On the surface, no objections. I think the difference, what separates every other conference from what I perceive to be the best conference in football, which is the SEC, what separates them is really the offensive and defensive line play. It's just a different animal in that conference. But the depth here in the Big Ten, like I said, you have just easily looking at things. You're about maybe 7-8 teams deep. When you're talking Maryland, Indiana, and Rutgers, okay. But your top 4 teams in one division and your top maybe 3 to 4 teams in the other division in the West are really decent football teams, and they can pick each other off at any point. So depth-wise, right now on the surface, yeah, the Big Ten is probably the best conference for now.
All right, so give me some players to watch in the Big Ten.
Dwayne Haskins, quarterback, Ohio State. He was a former Maryland commit. Unfortunately, when Urban Meyer flipped him at the end, but he's been waiting his turn behind J.T. Barrett. It seems like J.T. Barrett took him like 10 years. He had an NFL contract in college, it seems like, but he's finally gone, and now it's his turn. And they're gonna be really good with him. I think he's gonna be able to give that balance between the run game, the power run game with the quarterback, and he's also going to be able to give you that accurate passing that J.T. Barrett didn't always give you. He's going to be able to give you that. And I'm not going to try to turn this into Buckeye Nation here, but this Ohio State team's loaded, so you're going to hear a few names from just one school. J.K. Dobbins, and he's probably the closest thing I've seen to maybe a Percy Harvin in a long time, ironically, of Urban Meyer team and the Florida Gators, but he's so dynamic, whether it's on the ground, whether it's through the air. You can use him in various ways. Use him in jet sweeps. You can use him as a wildcat quarterback. You can put him on kick return, punt return. If you put him in space and he gets a step, it's over with. He's a dynamo. Also looking definitely Nick Bosa. If the name sounds familiar, Joey Bosa's little brother, who by all accounts is possibly going to be better than his big brother. So his step is just sick. So I'm really looking forward to him. Jonathan Taylor, Wisconsin, he has put on a few extra pounds to take the beating of Big Ten country, but he has a full complement of offensive linemen returning up in Camp Randall, and they're going to be pounding the rock, and he had almost 2,000 yards last year, so I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. Unfortunately, his team's going to have to win pretty much every game to keep him in a Heisman race that doesn't have a ton of dynamic players right now. But it's a quarterback award, it seems like right now. So for a running back to get it, he's going to have to put up just video game numbers. And after the season he put up last year, it's going to be tough. Rashawn Gary, defensive lineman, Michigan. He was the number one prospect coming out of high school a couple years ago. He's eligible for the draft after this year. Probably the comparisons we're hearing between him and another player, and Ed Oliver, who are the two best defensive linemen from Houston. You're kind of think of a few years back when you had Ndamukong Suh and Gerald McCoy coming out. Oliver's more like Aaron Donald, but Rashawn Gary's more along the Suh type of player. He can play every spot along the defensive line. You primarily want him kicked inside at the 3 technique, but he is such a beast. He's great with his hands, and he's a leader on the field. So he's going to be a guy I really want to watch and see how he handles the double and triple teams he's going to see going throughout the season. Kind of like how a certain Jadeveon Clowney he received. Or will Rashawn Gary play not to get hurt, or will he go 110% going into the year? Trace McSorley, quarterback, Penn State. There's no more Saquon Barkley anymore. So seeing how he can handle the pressure there, that's going to be very interesting because he's a very good quarterback and he hasn't lost a lot of games, but Penn State has lost a lot. So we'll see how he handles the spotlight by himself.
Yes, sir. All right, and last but not least, any interesting storylines for the Big Ten, and of course, your predictions for the conference.
All right, so this may be a very unpopular take, but Jim Harbaugh's on the hot seat. He, since coming to Michigan, in the beginning it was, okay, he's turning the program around, and then we're kind of stagnant. We haven't seen a quarterback. By the way, Shea Patterson, who's transferring in from Ole Miss, if the knee's right, he might be the best quarterback in college football. But if there's 7, 8, maybe even 9 wins might not be enough to save Harbaugh's job. So he's gonna have to he might have to win the Exactly. Maybe you should have stayed in the NFL with that. Oh, did somebody mute me? I'm sorry. I can't. I keep getting muted every time I say. Hey man, stop muting me every time I say the K word. Okay. No, I'm gonna leave that alone. Maybe he should have stayed in the NFL with the 49ers, but who knows? Harbaugh tends to wear his welcome out with whether it's administration or a front office. So we'll definitely have to see how that works out. And of course, good old Lovie Smith at Illinois. Illinois is just not a good place to be right now. They're the bottom feeders. If you really thought you were going to come in and change this culture, this is college football, and you're in the division. You're in the same conference with Ohio State, Michigan State, and Wisconsin, Penn State. You're not winning anything anytime soon. So enjoy your check. It's guaranteed. Enjoy it. As far as predictions, as far as who's going to win the conference. Before this week happened, I had Ohio State running away with this conference, and then I had to change all of this.
For the possibility of Ohio State imploding from inside out.
Exactly. And there's a nice rumor here where a former Big 12 coach might be involved in the potential search if Ohio State does, in fact, get rid of Urban Meyer. One Bob Stoops, maybe? That would be very interesting, especially if he takes over mid-season. If that happens, I'd be willing to, if he can just maintain the ship, that could be interesting. I'm still going to go with Ohio State. They're just talent-wise, they have a bunch of older guys on that team that can lead their team to at least a Big Ten title. The only team that really is going to stand in their way is they won't really have to deal with them until later in the year and potentially in the Big Ten title game. So I'm still going to give it to Ohio State. The defense is just they're just those guys are just nasty. So there are going to be a lot of close games. If they can block out the noise, guys, put the beats on, come to the game in the beats. Maybe might get a commercial out of it. You won't get paid for it, but still, Ohio State, I'm going to take them to win it. Will they lose to Michigan this year? Probably not.
All right, well, that is the Big Ten Conference, everybody. Let's take it out west to the Pac-12. Anything interesting going on in the coaching ranks of the Pac-12?
The Pac-12 is one of those conferences where California seems to be, and specifically California seems to be the state where they say they don't care about football. It's a very soft. They're soft out there. Oregon is going to be where a lot of storylines are going to swirl. You have a new head coach at Oregon. You have Mario Cristobal, former Miami Hurricane. Good job. The culture is always somewhere in the country. So shout out to him. He's going to have the Ducks rolling. There you go. He's going to have those guys rolling, especially on the defensive side. I think things are going to change. Offensively, they have one of the better quarterbacks in the country. I still I resent Daniel Herbert for that one game. I stayed up until about 3 a.m, triple overtime, Oregon Cal. I still resent you for that, but if you Oregon's going to still be, they're going to be Oregon. They're going to go fast. They're going to have nice jerseys, all of this great stuff. So I expect nothing but success from them. I say except at least I can expect 10 wins from them. UCLA has the big splash though. Chip Kelly, former Oregon head coach, former Eagles head coach. I know you're happy he's gone. Former 49ers head coach. Unfortunately, some guy with a name with a K that I keep getting muted every time I say it. Ever since he left, well, his career is gone too. So it's going to take time there because
Chip Kelly. Boo, Chip Kelly.
Nonetheless, I really, unfortunately, I actually like Chip Kelly. I like what he does because he was always on the cutting edge of technology when it came to football, whether it was the sleeping, the eating, just approaching everything in a business-like manner. That was his thing, and it worked. Now, granted, this is not Oregon.
College is his thing. So, he's back in his wheelhouse, so he shouldn't embarrass himself like he has the past few seasons in the NFL. So, let's go, Chip.
We also have at Arizona, you have Kevin Sumlin. After the disaster that was Texas A&M, he had all of 2 good years there with Johnny Manziel. That was a great run, but now there's no more expectation, at least we hope. He'll have a Heisman contender and Khalil Tate, who, if you haven't had a chance to watch a game with him, he is one of the most dynamic quarterbacks with his arm and his legs. And hopefully if Kevin Sumlin can bring a little bit of defense to this team, he's going to be interesting. That's going to be a very fun team, at least offensively. But three head coaches, all along the offensive side of the ball. So you're going to see you should see a lot of fireworks in this conference.
All right. So give me some players to watch in the Pac-12.
Players to watch. This one's – I'm sorry. How can I forget? Hello? You play to win the game. How could I forget about Herm Edwards at Arizona State? How did I – hello? Put your name on it.
I'm not going to like that.
I'm sorry, Herm. I'm sorry. I won't do it again. But
you play to win the game.
Exactly.
You don't play to just play it.
How many times will we hear that speech to his players, or when a kid gets suspended? I mean, how many times will he bring that one out? But that's also gonna be a very interesting one because he's not out of the game for a long time. And he was an NFL coach at that, so
I'm actually
he has
gonna miss hearing him talk about the NFL, on the radio shows. Monday morning quarterbacking and stuff.
Exactly.
How does he relate? No.
How does he relate to kids? That's going to be my question because he brings an old school mentality. He's a no nonsense kind of guy. He comes from the train of thought of if a coach tells you to do something, you just do it. Nowadays, kids have to be told why they're doing it. And I wonder, will they run him out of town or will he be able to adapt and really harness what he has? Because Arizona State has a pretty good offense, at least. I'm actually excited.
They can probably go ahead and keep Herm's seat warm over at ESPN. That's my prediction.
Oh, ouch.
I mean, I wish him success. I love Herm, but like you said, his old school mentality doesn't really fit what's going on these days, man. These kids feel entitled, and it's gonna be a scene, man. It's gonna be a scene.
Players to watch. Gotta mention Bryce Love, running back Stanford. He could have had a Heisman Trophy. He had over 2,000 yards on the ground, 18 touchdowns. It just seems like every time a Stanford running back gets close to a Heisman, they always just get snubbed out. I mean, this man was dragging his leg around at the end of the year last year, and 2,100 yards. That was a big time feat. 18 touchdowns and a power run offense, NFL style. I can't even call it an NFL style offense anymore, and no that type of offense anymore. But where we put two tight ends, a fullback, and just say we're going to hit you in the mouth. The quarterback's but it's going to be interesting to see how many carries he can take. Hold up, so I'm interested to see what he does, and will the expectations be unrealistic for him? Jake Browning, quarterback at Washington, he's the guy that can get you all the way to a playoff, and then his arm just, when you play the upper echelon teams like the Clemsons, the Alabamas, the Ohio States, that's when his arm just isn't enough. He just doesn't have enough zip.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs?
Yes, coach. Playoffs. We're too early to talk about playoffs, but I kind of put him in the same realm. If you remember when Chad Pennington, remember how we used to say his arm is just so weak. That's the way I feel about
Noodle arm
Jake Brown.
Chad.
Yeah. Same way him as well as Kellen Moore. Very similar type players. They're very cerebral. They're coaches' sons. They're really good at what they do. The precision passing game is what they do. But unfortunately, when you get to play the big boys where DBs are just jumping everything, well, you're in trouble. So, but Jake Brown is going to be a Heisman contender, and of course, like I said, Khalil Tate. He's the guy to watch. He's the wild card in all of this because he can run it, he can throw it, he's dynamic. Unfortunately, USC refused to recruit him because they wanted him as a safety or a wide receiver instead of a quarterback. Silly rabbits. And JT Daniels is a freshman quarterback who is going to probably start at USC. We all know about how freshman quarterbacks work. They can be boom or bust. They can be ruined, or they can be the most successful thing you've seen in a long time. No expectation. I'm going in glass half empty on this one because simply we just don't know what he'll be like. Will it be too much for him? But I'm interested to see because USC has a pretty good defense coming back. So maybe a running game and a little bit of defense will help him along. Maybe 3 or 4 games, and then he can kind of let it rip per se.
All right. So any interesting storylines before you go into your prediction?
Storyline for me, I want to see. the Chip Kelly experiment. You have Wilton Speight coming over from Michigan. He wasn't the best quarterback in the world. He's going to be running things over there. But you also have a bit of a quarterback battle with Devin Mobster, who was the guy who took over last year for Josh Rosen after the injuries, Matt Lynch, also Austin Burton. These guys, and also freshman Dorian Thompson-Robinson, all of these guys are kind of going to be battling for that backup spot, and they're waiting for Wilton Speight to throw about 6 interceptions in the first 2 or 3 games before Chip Kelly says, I'm done with this experiment, give me a new guy, and we'll just start from the bottom. So that's going to be the interesting one, because Chip Kelly is even though he's not at a premier university, he has the resources of a premium university. And it's going to take a few years. They'll probably go in, they're going to probably beat Cincinnati to start the season. And then everyone's going to be hyped about him. Oh, Chip Kelly's back. He's killing the game. He picked up where he left off. And then, well, you guys got to go to Oklahoma and I could see Oklahoma dropping about 60 points on them, and welcome back to earth. You guys aren't as good as you thought you were.
Started from the bottom, now we're here.
Exactly. It's all about, it's the Chip Kelly show in the Pac-12 right now.
So who wins this conference?
I think Washington wins this conference. You have Myles Gaskin coming back. You got Jake Browning coming back. Chris Peterson has proven that he can win there at Washington. The tradition's back. They have a pretty good defense despite losing guys like Vita Vea on the defensive line. So I'm looking forward to seeing. It's not the regular season that worries me. It's now, granted, they do have to see Auburn early. That could be a problem, but outside of that, I don't see a ton of losses. USC might pick them off, but I'm not really too worried about this team in the regular season. If they get into the Final Four, if you're playing a Clemson or an Alabama, what happens? Do you have a chance, or is it blowout city again?
All right, so that is your Pac-12 preview. Let's take it back over to the East Coast. Let's talk about the ACC. Anything happening in the coaching ranks in the ACC?
Well, there was a certain team in Tallahassee. You know, I don't like these guys. I don't refer to them. They are the hated rivals. Their little brother. They have a new I'll be nice. Willie Taggart takes over after leaving Oregon. He takes over at Florida State. Very interested to see how that works out. You have Jimbo Fisher left that team in a very bad way, left the cupboard somewhat bare. Want to see how he handles things there. The quarterback situation is going to be very interesting because you have DeAndre Francois, who was allegedly selling drugs out of his apartment, had some domestic things going on, and you also have James Blackman, who he was 170 pounds allegedly. He looked like a 12th grader out there, but he was slinging the rock around pretty good. Real tall kid. I actually liked what I saw from him early on, and they have a beast running. He has a beast running back in Cam Akers, who's going to be a very, very rich man in a couple years if he can stay healthy. But outside of that, no real coaching changes this year. You could see some changes in the next couple of years if some of certain people at maybe NC State, maybe Boston College don't live up to, maybe even a Syracuse don't live up to expectations.
All right, so give me some players to watch in the conference.
Players to watch, and I would be remiss if I didn't say anything about the Clemson Tigers. Travis Etienne, their stud running back. He is an electric running back, averaging 7.2 yards a carry last year, 13 touchdowns. And by the way, he was a freshman, so you guys have to deal with him for a couple more years. Again, Cam Akers, freshman. Running back last year, had 1,000 yards and 7 rushing touchdowns. He has star power written all over him. Ryan Finley, he's going to be a top prospect as far as quarterbacks are concerned for NC State. Travis Homer, Miami. I can give you multiple Miami players, but I'll be nice and give you just him. He took over for Mark Walton last year after the injuries. He had a pretty good season. You can pretty much look for every single player on the Clemson defensive line, whether that's Austin Howard, Christian Wilkins, who decided to come back after being projected top 15 pick last year. They have unfinished business. Cleveland Farrell, or my favorite of the four, Dexter Lawrence, who is a complete beast. Their defense, they have easily 3 first-rounders and maybe a second-rounder if Austin Howard just happens to slip. But then also you also have guys like Jawan Pass, who's going to be taking over for Lamar Jackson, who had a pretty decent outing last night at the Hall of Fame game, despite playing with 3rd and 4th stringers. How dare you put this young man back there like that?
He's still playing.
And of course, the best returning thing in this whole conference is the turnover chain. You gotta love it. Where else can you find a team that pulls out a Cuban League chain from the 90s with a big gold U on it, other than University of Miami? So those are some of the things that I'm, as far as players. And yeah, exactly. Maybe Amon Richards. If I just have to give one more Miami guy, he was banged up last year. He had a hammy last year and you know how those hamstring injuries are. They just tend to just linger all year long. He has first-round potential all over him, so I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do and how electric he can be. Maybe bail a bad Malik Rozier out of some sticky situations.
All right. Any interesting storylines you're looking forward to? I mean, I'm pretty sure, being a fan, full disclosure, of the U, pretty sure there's something you're looking forward to down there.
No, I'm lying. The Canes The Canes they're not back, but they're building. Opened up some new facilities down there. They have a new indoor practice facility. Finally, they're keeping up in the arms race. Another year of improvement down there for the Miami Hurricanes. The problem with this team is Malik Rozier. Can he improve? Can he be a better quarterback? And can the offensive line help him? The skill positions are some of the best in the country, whether it's names like DJ Dallas, Jeff Thomas, Amon Richards, Travis Homer. On the defensive side, Jaquan Johnson's coming back. Might have the best corner in the country in Michael Jackson, and might have one of the best D linemen in the country in Joe Jackson. Hey, exactly. Can we get 3 more and we just have the Jackson 5? I mean, I'm just saying that would be very fun to see. But the Miami defense is bringing back that same ferocity that they had last year. So I'm looking forward to seeing those guys do some things. Year 2 for Justin Fuente at Virginia Tech. He had a very interesting year with Justin Jackson at quarterback. He really he's more of a runner than a passer, but I'm interested to see what he can do with that team. Willie Taggart, of course, at Florida State, because it's Florida State. College football is always better when schools like Miami, Florida State, Virginia Tech, those schools are always good. It makes for a great competition within the conference. I want to see where will quarterbacks step up in this conference, because we have some really good ones, whether it's Malik Rozier, whether it's Josh Jackson at Virginia Tech. Also, at Pitt, we have a freshman quarterback there last year at the end of the season took over and he gave Miami fits before Miami found a way to lose that game. And going into year 2, want to see how Pitt plays with that. And I just, for some reason, I have a weird feeling that Boston College is going to pick somebody off. They have had some really good defenses lately, and the colder it gets, those guys are built for that. By the way, they play Miami on a Thursday night in November. It's going to be cold. Play nice with my Canes, guys, please.
All right, so predictions. Who's going to win this conference?
Clemson is the class of the conference. They have an embarrassment of riches, whether it's quarterback Kelly Bryant, the returning starter, who's fighting for his job with a 5-star freshman named Trevor Sunshine Lawrence. Yes, his nickname is Sunshine. If you don't know the reference of Sunshine, go watch Remember the Titans. You'll understand. But he's the goods, and that's just there. Whether it could be Amari Rogers, who, by the way, is the if I make sure I'm giving this right, he's the nephew of T. Martin, the former Tennessee Vols quarterback, who, by the way, is just Amari Rogers is a stud waiting to happen. He's just having to be behind some really good players at Clemson, whether it was Artavis Scott or Deion Kane. He's just been kind of waiting in the wings, but he's a really good player when he gets the ball in his hands. He's a very electric guy. But Clemson is that, and that's just the offense. Mitch Hyatt is a first-round talent on the offensive line. We talked about their defensive line. These guys are the class of the conference. Miami's not there yet as far as beating these guys. I could see a rematch of the ACC title game with Miami and Clemson, but you may see a lot. It may be a little bit closer this time around, but nonetheless, Clemson's going to win the conference.
All right, Clemson it is. All right, so we're about to go down south with it because we saved the best for last. You know, earlier in the show, I did mention how the coaches poll says that now the Big Ten is probably the strongest conference in college football, but we got to give respect to the conference who's held that title unofficially, but kind of officially for the last decade and a half, and they still house the nation's best team until somebody says they're not the best team. So let's go down to the SEC. We're going to put some respect on their name and go down there. Last but not least.
I'm saying my name, put some respect on it.
Did you? No doubt. I hear you. All right, so anything in the coaching ranks happening down in the SEC?
6 is the stat that matters here. The SEC introduced 6 new head coaches ahead of the 2018 season. That includes Matt Luke, who was the interim head coach at Ole Miss. You also have head coaching changes at Florida, where Dan Mullen takes over for the woeful offense that was Jim McElwain, who came over from Colorado State a few years ago. You also have Jimbo Fisher coming over from Florida State to Texas A&M. That's going to be an interesting one. You also have at Arkansas, we have changes there. That's going to be interesting because Chad Morris, who was the former offensive coordinator back in a few years ago at Clemson, he was at the beginning of all of this big transformation at Clemson, where when Taj Boyd was there with Sammy Watkins and Nuke Hopkins and Andre Ellington and all of those guys on offense, where they just were loaded. Well, he was the designer of that offense. So he's now at Arkansas after having a few years over at SMU, where things then weren't great, but he turned it around as much as he could. This is going to be a very interesting one because he actually gets a last chance U guy. Not sure if you got a chance to check the series out for this season, but starting running back. I won't spoil it for you then. I won't spoil it too much, but he has a star player from that team. Go check that out.
I'm on it. We're going to be able to talk about it on the air soon because I'm about to knock that out in the next 2 weeks.
Okay, good enough because we got to talk about it. We got to talk about it because it was great. But Chad Morris comes over from SMU also to take over. So you have some big coaching names, star power actually among coaching ranks taking over in an SEC conference and Jeremy Pruitt, defensive coordinator for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Also, he was a coordinator at Georgia. He's taking over at Tennessee at that woeful program where guys they just don't know how to use star players like Alvin Kamara. They make him sit on the bench, and then he goes to the NFL, and he shows out like nobody's business. And they make guys like Jalen Hurts just don't even want to play football anymore. The Vols haven't been relevant since Phil Fulmer's been there. He's cursed that team. You don't fire your legendary head coach. You just don't do it. And Joe Moorhead comes over from Penn State to take over for Dan Mullen, who left for Florida at Mississippi State. They're going to be a scary team too.
All right, so those are the coaches, but give me some players to watch. So you might as well just give me. The players to watch list in the SEC is also like the players to watch for the NFL draft. So let us know what's going on player-wise in the SEC.
For the Florida Gators, C.C. Jefferson, I got a chance to see him throughout his high school career. Very good defensive lineman. This is going to be a defensive line heavy conference this year. This is where the money is made. This is where the guys that go to the NFL, they're going to be here. If you want to win, come to the SEC. So C.C. Jefferson, Florida, Jeffrey Simmons, Mississippi State, Montez Sweat, Mississippi State. Auburn has some big time guys. Alabama has Raekwon Davis. Dude, can I just be honest with you? Parents, these kids' parents grew up in the late 80s, early 90s. You guys listen to hip hop. I'm glad. I appreciate it. I really do. I really appreciate it. But Raekwon Davis, how many Raekwons have we had in the last few years? You had your namesake at Ohio State, Raekwon McMillan. So we got Raekwon Davis. I mean, I've seen a couple of Nasirs along the way on the D-line.
That's all well and good, the Raekwons and the Nasirs. I'm waiting on a couple of Ghostface to be born.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Ghostface Henderson.
Exactly. If we get a Christopher Wallace along the way, I won't be too mad either. But I'm also looking forward to seeing Terry Beckner Jr. at Mizzou. Drew Lock, quarterback, he's one of the top guys at Mizzou. Alabama, you can just kind of just go down their list. Tua, Jalen Hurts still. Damian Harris is going to be back after he had a solid year. He could be a Heisman guy. On the defensive side, Mac Wilson might be the best linebacker in the country. They're returning a lot of big-time backers on their defense. Cornerback at LSU, Greedy Williams. Yes, that's the nickname. Greedy Williams, dude. When you get a name like that, you better be good. He may be the best corner in the country. Benny Snell, running back, Kentucky. I can keep going for days if you. DeAndre Swift, Georgia, Jake Fromm, Georgia, quarterback. Georgia's loaded as well. You also have Justin Fields, who was the number one player in the country. He's giving the quarterback who took Georgia to a national championship. He's going to give him fits because the first time Jake Fromm throws an interception, they're going to say, we want Justin Fields, who's been touted as baby Cam already. And he had a pretty good spring game. So these teams in the SEC are not playing around unless you're Vanderbilt, and who called out Alabama last year, and well, you know what happened then. So, and how could I forget Nick Fitzgerald at Mississippi State after he broke his leg, and he had Mississippi State on track to potentially challenge Alabama. This conference is loaded, absolutely loaded.
See, it still sounds like, everybody, all the talent that's worth talking about is still down in the SEC. Storylines, any interesting storylines? And then your prediction for the conference, even though, we know what the prediction is going to be.
Okay, so before I do
Prediction? Yes, prediction. Hey.
Before I do that, I can't be disrespectful to Will Muschamp and the South Carolina Gamecocks. They have a quarterback in Jake Bentley who's going to be a really good quarterback, but they have a wide receiver by the name of Deebo Samuel. When you get a name like Deebo, I don't want to be on the other side of that. I really don't.
See your point though, because Deebo came out around the same time as most of those rappers you talked about. So
exactly.
People went a little too far with naming their children.
Exactly. A.J. Brown also at Ole Miss and Greg Little are guys that you're gonna want to watch at Ole Miss. Can't disrespect those guys either. But for me, you said storylines. For me, I would have to say quarterback at Alabama is going to be huge, because at the end of the day, the old saying is if you have two quarterbacks, you have none. But you got a quarterback in Jalen Hurts who's lost 2 games in 3 years. You also have Tua, who came in and he didn't have the greatest of halves, but he was effective and he made plays when it mattered. And by the way, I'm not giving him any slack. He made the wrong read on that last throw. Dominic Sanders made his life easy by taking 2.5 steps to the right. You're in a cover 2 like that, you're not supposed to throw to the backside receiver. That's elementary stuff, but he just has such a great arm, and the receiver just beat the defender, and the safety was out of position. You got lucky. 9 out of 10 times you're getting picked off. So I'm not letting them off the hook that easy. But I do want to see what Florida does this year. Simply put, Dan Mullen is back in town. This is what the original hire should have been. What it should have been him or Charlie Strong up in Gainesville once Urban Meyer left, not Will Muschamp, not Jim McElwain. This was what was supposed to happen. But when you have ADs who have bad blood with assistants, instead of putting your pride to the side and doing what's best for the program and not for you, this is what happens. But I'm looking forward to seeing what Florida does. The consensus is they're going to have a bad year. I think they can win anywhere between 7 and 8 games. I think they'll find a way to pull one out. We know how dominant Alabama has always been on the defensive end, but this year they may be more of an offensive team. Want to see what Mike Loxley does now that they have a new offensive coordinator. How do they navigate this? Will they be more of a run-heavy team? Will they be slinging it around? Will they go a little bit more up-tempo? And will the offense be able to carry the defense until those guys can come around? Because they lost their whole secondary. That's going to be a problem. And Auburn has one of the best offenses in the country, and Jarrett Stidham is the guy that we don't talk about really. He's now been in the offense for 2 years. He has a chance to really make some waves. Mississippi State with Nick Fitzgerald and that defense, those guys Auburn, Mississippi State, and Texas A&M may have one of the best. They may have some of the best defenses in the country, but unfortunately they're all in the same division as Alabama. So either they're going to beat each other up and then Alabama will pick them off one by one, or one of them will give Alabama some kind of problem, and it will be Alabama's job to, figure out the puzzle and not get picked off, because their schedule is not great. So they can't really afford to lose any games and hope for a national championship run, even if they win the SEC.
So what do you think? Because that's the ifs and buts of everything. What's the prediction? Is it just going to be Alabama taking this
to be the man? Ric Flair once said, to be the man, you got to beat the man. And right. I really don't – the only team I really see really realistically beating them, Auburn could beat them at the end. Mississippi State has a chance when you have a good defensive line, you always have a chance. And you have a quarterback, you always have a chance. And Georgia may have a chance in the SEC title. But they might get – I have an upset special. I'm calling it now. And I might – many will call me crazy. Week 2, Georgia and South Carolina are going to link up for a really good matchup. South Carolina upsets Georgia early. Alabama. Yeah. I'm going there. South Carolina, don't let me down in this one because the last time I made a big prediction like this one this early, I ate crow. I don't want to eat crow, but it's just everything's brewing just right. South Carolina, good defense, good offense. Debo Samuel's there, and Georgia, they're loaded, but something says when you lose guys like Nick Chubb and Sony Michel on offense, and now you got to rely on some different guys to pick up the slack, and Jake Fromm's going to be the focus now of every defensive coordinator. And it's early. If you're going to pick off a team like Georgia, you get them early while they're kind of trying to figure some things out. So South Carolina over Georgia, and I'll even give you a score, 28-24.
Wow. All right, we're gonna stay on this prediction train. We're gonna take us out on this. But we're gonna go national. We talked about the Power 5 conferences. You gave your in-depth analysis and predictions, storylines, coaches, players to watch, and all of that kind of stuff. But we're gonna go nationwide with all of this. Give me your coach of the year for this upcoming season.
Coach of the year, I think Dan Mullen is going to be the guy. Simply put, he's got a tough test ahead of him, but it's going to be very, very interesting to see how he molds things because he got things going at Mississippi State with guys like Dak Prescott, and then he moved on to Nick Fitzgerald. So I think it's going to be – his record won't say –
Uncle Dacus.
Oh, don't get me started. Don't get me started, Dak. Oh man, you really disappoint me. But I want to see what's going to happen. But I really think he's going to have an 8-4 type of year. If he can get that he could easily win this, and maybe Scott Frost if he can get some things rolling there and get things going over at Nebraska. You could easily see that. Nick Saban won't win it. Dabo Swinney won't win it. Mark Richt won't win it. No big name could win this thing.
All right. Give me your freshman of the year.
Freshman of the year, Trevor Lawrence. Sunshine. Simply put, Kelly Bryant might not be able to hold him off because Kelly Bryant isn't the passer that a Trevor Lawrence is. He's just not the guy when it comes to that. I kind of look at it almost in the same sense of a Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa kind of situation where you have two quarterbacks, one's a passer, one more of a runner, one more of a guy you can rely on in the running game, but you got to keep it simple in the passing game. Trevor Lawrence, he can spin it, and with a defense as good as Clemson's, with the electric pieces around him, you could easily see him. If he gets a chance, he's not letting it go.
All right. So who's going to be that guy in college football this year? Give me that Heisman winner.
I've been kind of back and forth on this one. For a while, I said maybe Tua would win, but I don't even think he's going to be the full-time starter. I think Jalen Hurts will kind of be in his way, and if it's not him, it's Damian Harris. He'll get in his way. I'm going to say Jonathan Taylor, Wisconsin. It's hard to really do much more than what he did with 1,900 yards, but I don't think a quarterback wins it this year. Simply put, I don't see anybody that's dynamic enough. There's no Johnny Manziel, Tim Tebow, Vince Young type, or even a Lamar Jackson type out there. This year may be the year for the running back to win it. So I'm going to go with Jonathan Taylor, Wisconsin running back sophomore.
All right. And look, last but not least, we got to talk about how the season is going to end. So give me your playoff selections and who's going to come out of that group to become national champions.
I think we're going to see a lot of what we've seen the last couple of years. Alabama, you can put that in pen. Clemson, you can put that in pen. But that's where it gets sticky. Washington, I think Washington has a good chance of getting in there. And that 4 spot could easily be an Auburn, an Ohio State. Before this week happened, Ohio State was in that picture easily, and then Urban Meyer had to go and cover stuff up. So I'm gonna stand pat at Ohio State because the last time they had distractions like this, whether it was their record being vacated, the wins not mattering, they went 12-0 and they dominated everybody. This team has the same type of talent, so put Ohio State in there despite the distractions.
Okay. Wait, so
we have Alabama, Clemson, Washington, and Ohio State.
All right, so
the Big 12 gets left out yet again.
Which cream rises to the top? Who's?
That one's a tough one. I think we're going to get a Clemson-Alabama rematch. And Part 3, the one to really end it all. The sequel, the remix to the sequel to the sequel. So, if that happens, that's a tough one. Give me Alabama because at the end of the day, they're still national champions, and to beat the man, Deshaun Watson's not walking through that door again. So you can have the best D-line in football all you want, but there's something to be said about having, whether it's Jalen Hurts who has a national championship, or a Tua who has a national championship now too. Both guys, whoever struggles, the other guy will be more than happy to take over.
All right, so Alabama, you're national champions until proven otherwise, and there you have it.
Are y'all finished or y'all done? I ain't got no more talking.
Man, we're finished and we're done, and we are happy to be back with you guys for another season of Quick Slants. The college football season it's coming up on us, and it's going to be, as the youngins say, it's going to be lit. Or it's going to be litty, or whatever it's going to be, but we're going to be right here with you, chronicling the season. I'll be here just throwing Fred lobs, and he's going to be putting on a hell of a dunk contest display for you guys all season long with the in-depth analysis and everything you need for your college football fix. You guys know where to come. It's where you've been coming for the past 2 seasons, and we ain't going nowhere. So, check us out. Everything that we do is on WarRoomSports.com. I told you guys before that, the network, which has been down for quite a while now, we're working on getting things back together, but we're going to have, we're still going to go on with the shows, and we're just going to let you know every week where you can go find those shows. But Fred, before we sign out of here, let them know where they can find you if they want to holler at you on those internet streets about some college football.
You guys can check me out on Twitter, Fred Purdue CFB. I'm live in these Twitter streets right now. It's a lot going on, and we got a lot to talk about. I mean, and we're versatile here. We're versatile. We're not just a college football guy. I'm dibbling and dabbling in a little bit of NFL, but that's a little later on. That's just a little bit later on, but this college football season is going to be very, very exciting.
Oh, yeah, y'all look out for that, because Cover 2 with Fred and Purdue is going to be back for all you NFL heads out there. So we are signing off. Again, I am Devin McMillan for my partner and the star of this show, Fred Purdue. We're signing out. Like we always tell you guys, don't accept mediocrity and be steadfast in the war against ignorance. We'll see you chumps on top. Peace.
Hi, I'm Thomas from your Tracy Safeway. We're happy to be part of the local communities we serve, and this week we're celebrating 92 years of service in Northern California by offering huge savings to our customers. Our anniversary sale is happening now, with deals on hundreds of items throughout our stores. Shop our anniversary sale and get Doritos or Sun Chips select varieties $1.99 with your club card, and select from an assortment of Pepsi products on sale this week. Now that's savings we're celebrating. This is Thomas from your Tracy Safeway, and we'll see you soon.
Right now, join T-Mobile and get an unlimited family plan with Netflix included, so you can watch in more places than ever before on your phone, tablet, or TV. Plus, buy one Samsung Galaxy S9 and get one free with 24 monthly bill credits, so you and your family can binge your Netflix favorites on your new phones. Call 1-800-T-Mobile or visit a store today.
Unlimited data on their network. Video streams at 480p. Small fraction of customers using over 50 gigs per month may have reduced speeds. If you cancel, balance is due. Well-qualified customers, full price, $720 plus tax. Finance agreements required. Netflix for 2 screens. Terms apply.